Hello, welcome to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. My name is Claire Hill, self-belief and business coach, founder of the Vivid Business Club and host of the podcast. You know who I am. And quickly, before I introduce today's guest, remember to subscribe and follow. I'm watching all of those likes going up and I'm appreciating them. All right. You're showing that you're invested in the podcast and I'm grateful. Right. Today, I have Tracy Litt here, founder of the School of Becoming and the creator of the Neuro Identity Evolution. Thank you so much for being here today, Tracy.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Before we started recording, I just wanted to just give in a bit of snippet into the work you do, which is very transformative. I'm so excited about this conversation because I love how you blend the science with like that feminine energy of becoming her and all of the consciousness, energetics, all of the things that I feel in they seem quite separate for some people, but what you've done is you brought them all together. So where did it all begin, Tracy? What's the love
Ah,
story of the business?
the love story. My journey, right? My multiple beautiful awakenings and the desire to make something complete, right?
Mm,
Because to your point, there's so many wonderful things in this world, and there's so many beautiful contributors, service providers, modalities, things that we can do for ourselves, and they're all wonderful.
mm,
Where I was sitting was, but it feels a little incomplete here and a little
mm,
incomplete here, and I got to go here to figure that out. So what happened for me, the biggest catalyst to me landing here was when I was sitting in my corporate job many years ago,
mm,
and my soul was slowly dying. Right, I was starting
mm-hmm,
to get that sense, which is a very familiar, beautiful, similar story for a lot of us, that there's more than this, right? And most importantly, like I'm a vessel, right? I'm being tapped for something and I'm great at my job, all is well. So this is where we really get into kind of the old world versus the new world. I worked from home, I owned a house, I was a single mom with my daughter, I had some prior awakenings to that. And everyone in my life thought I was crazy when I was like, this, it's not that this isn't enough. It's that it isn't it. It's that I
mm,
don't feel satiated. I am not feeling how I want to feel, and I'm not contributing in the vastness and the depth that I know, I'm capable of. And I want to lean in here because that little that tinge, that gut feeling, that soul call, that knowing, that's the truth.
mm.
And the limitation and our fear responses and our mind getting involved and us, until you come into the work with us, caring what people think and your families, we shouldn't do that. And it's like, wait a second. So that stir in my soul had me start to explore, well, and if you're not going to do this, what are you being tapped for? So I started to research, just straight up Google, how do I help people, right? This is like, let's see, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, and was researching things like psychotherapy, social work, hypnotherapy, all the things in the world. And then all of a sudden I came across human growth and development. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know it was a thing. And now I'm like in this wormhole, in this whole universe of this whole industry. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And the important piece here is I knew I wanted to do it. I was jazzed and ready to go. I researched and found the adult learning coaching school I wanted to go to. And then I did nothing for 2 years.
Mm.
I was playing the gas brake. On Monday, I was like, I'm doing this. And I would like tell my husband, I'm doing it, I'm signing up. And then I would not sign up. And then I would shrink back on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, I'd be like, no, 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 I'm doing this. And I would like tell my sister. And then I would shrink back again. And I played that gas brake game for 2 years until I finally took the leap because my higher self came again. And basically, the sense that I felt if I had to articulate it would be like, you're not getting out alive and the world needs you. So cut the shit and do this. That's
Mm.
basically what it felt
She
like.
kicked your ass.
She kicked my ass, and that's what we do. And that's like a mainstay of our work too, because what we deliver, I will not teach or mentor anything that I haven't practiced and know works.
Yeah.
To me, it's just integrity, right? So when I finally took that leap, I then said, okay, the first thing I'm going to prioritize is understanding what the hell just happened. How could I have been so pumped? Because we all have that. I know right now you're thinking, whether it's like to write that book or leave your corporate job or use your voice in your marriage, to do that thing, whatever the thing is, we're jazzed and then we don't. So I started studying fear and the biology of fear and the body and risk perception and risk aversion and all of these things. And that began the body of work. My TED Talk is on fear. My first book, there's multiple chapters on fear. And understanding that when we shift our relationship with fear, everything changes. And that started the journey of neuroidentity evolution, and how to really, really guarantee someone that if you come in willing and open and you follow our method with our guidance, you will not recognize yourself.
Wow. I do love the fact that it took you 2 years, because how much did you learn in that time to then recognize in it all of the people that you've helped since?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing about not fighting against what is. That's
Mm,
the thing about really embodying and living through the lens of everything's happening for my highest good, right? The
mm.
work that we do at the school is based in the scientific truth that you are a spiritual, energetic being having a human experience. And what does that really mean when you get out of your head and live by the truth of your energetics, which you're 99.999% energy, and you are source and source is you are God and God is you, like that's what is. And also acknowledging, but I'm here in a meat suit, like my soul is here as Tracy Litt. I have this body, and in my body has this gorgeous nervous system and my brain, and it wants to feel and it needs to process all of these beautiful things, right? So it's really being able to understand that when we know and understand how to direct this whole thing. Like we walk around such victims of ourselves, and it makes me sad and mad. It's like, no, you're creating your lived experience 100% of the time. And it's just that nobody taught this to you, which is literally why I built a school, because we
Mm.
understand school. We get it. We go, I'll go to school for that. I'll go to school for that. Well, we need to have a school where you come and you work on you and learn everything that none of us were ever taught because it wasn't available for our parents and our parents' parents to teach us.
So the school of becoming is the foundations of that. Is that where you teach the neuro identity evolution? That's the foundations. How so people can join up to the school? How does it work?
So the school is a digital, it's not a brick and mortar school. So it's an online school.
Love it.
And we have a gorgeous library of endless free resources divided into read, watch, and listen, because everyone as an adult I mean, everyone in general has a different learning style, but especially as adult learners, we know how we like to digest information. So it's broken down like that for you, and that's all free. You can start by going, you take the ascension assessment, and the assessment tells you where you are on your growth journey. It tells you where you are in third dimensional consciousness, fifth dimensional consciousness, the emotions that you're spending your hours in. Like it's so generous and informative, because when you understand this whole thing, you're like, oh, okay, so I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. A block is not true. It's a redirect into me figuring things out. It's just all these like light bulbs start to go off. So that's the library. And then when you're ready to really start your neuro identity evolution, you come into core curriculum, and
Right.
that's where it starts. And that's mind magic. That's level one. That's when you're coming through the NIE methodology, you're going through your own evolution, and then you get the choice to decide how far you want to go in your journey. You can get certified in the work, and so many of our students get certified because they come through and they're like, I've been doing personal growth work for years and this worked, and I feel different, and I can't think like my old self, and I'm back in my body, and it's a beautiful process.
That's I love the fact that it is a proper, a real school. You can get qualified. I'm guessing your ambition for this is massive, to reach as many people as possible.
Even as you say that, it makes me cry.
Oh,
It's literally what I do. It's why I'm here. Like I
Oh,
said, when I was in that corporate job, right, I'm the vessel. I'm answering the call. It's not about me. It just happens to be coming through my mouth and coming through my mind from something much bigger than me. And
mm,
I'm the vessel that's willing
yeah.
to lean in and be seen and get risky and love my fear, right? We need vessels. We're all vessels. The question is, how willing are you to allow yourself to be the vessel that you're being tapped to be?
Mm,
So it's everything. I want to live in a more loving world. I have three daughters. I want them to live in a more loving world. You know, that we are watching our current world die, starve, fight. And if we don't do something at the root cause very different, then nothing's ever going to really actually evolve. And
mm,
the way that we change this world, the way that we elevate consciousness and frequency and build a more loving, progressive environment isn't by starting nonprofits and looking outside of ourselves. It's by each individual being going, oh shit, I have a divine moral responsibility here. And I
mm,
need to work on me because it's our unhealed wounds, it's our unconscious, uh, you know, um, the things that are unconscious that we need to make conscious. It's the state of our nervous system. It's the limitation of our minds. It's the suppressed decades of emotion that are making us edgy and angry and not see the world in the goodness that it is. It's all of those things. And that because of our energetics, because we all have this stunning electromagnetic field and this energetic body that lives outside our physical body. And that's what's happening, and that's what's churning, and that's what connects with people because energy doesn't lie. So when we start to do that individually, if you imagine an electromagnetic field in your mind, right, imagine like just a invisible bubble that goes 4 to 12 feet in range outside of your physical body. And what is that energy you're emitting? That's ripple effect. And then it touches the person to your left and your right and the north and the west and the east. And all of a sudden, kindness.
mm.
And our world, because our world, the society we live in, is based in third dimensional consciousness, which is lack, fear, and separation. Nobody wants to acknowledge that this is the actual answer because it's discounted as fluffy. The fact that in corporate America, which is one of our biggest pathways for most people to pass through, calls this soft skills is such crap because our society does not want to change because how are we going to keep people in control if they're not in the control matrix?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. That's why no one teaches you how to be an entrepreneur as well, is it?
Uh-huh, right, exactly. Exactly. Don't give them all that power.
Yeah. Yeah. Reclaim it. Do you remember the moment? Was there a significant moment when you felt I'm going to lean now? And I can imagine the feelings that you were feeling around that, but can you remember the moment you were like, this is what I am here to do? It feels strange and uncomfortable because it's difficult to explain, isn't it? The people that don't live in this world,
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine saying to my husband who works with homeless, in the housing sector, homeless people, and I talk about my work, but he is basically in corporate. He doesn't, it's not the same world. So for
Mm-hmm.
you to come from corporate, understand that this is what you were meant to do, that moment when you go, I'm going to lean in now. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember the significance of it?
So it was more cumulative than a singular moment.
Okay.
It still happens, right? Because
Mm,
at every level, which is why even our NIE methodology, our students love because at every level they go to, they do it again. They continue to evolve. It's a methodology. It's an embodiment methodology, right? So uh, every time I had an invitation, meaning like an opportunity, to go to the next level to spread more impact, I got to work on my willingness to be that vessel to have that level of exposure, right? So the first leap was what I just shared when I left corporate, right?
mm,
And the next leap actually happened because I got laid off. I manifested a layoff from that corporate job, right? So four
mm-hmm.
months after I start coaching school, I get a call from my CEO. We're letting you and your department go. I'm like, okay. She's like, I don't think you heard me. You're out of work. I'm like, okay, I have a plan. It's fine. So then the next moment, an invitation was, all right, so my mind said, well, you need to go get a job because you still have 7 months of school and then you're going to start this business. And then my she, which is part of our work, what would she do? My she was like, no, you're not doing that because that's old you that's looking for some sense of security and safety in a job. You are going to start building your company now.
Oh,
And that was another moment where I leaned into fear, right? And then when it was time, do you want, yep, let's write a book. Let's get the message out there to more people. 15.99, everybody can afford that. Write the book, get it out there, done, right? TED Talk, same thing. Every move, live event, huge, all these things at every move, it's a choice and decision to continue to be the vessel and expand yourself at every move. Because people, you could stop.
yeah.
I'm not stopping because it's bigger than me. And I'm just here to be like, okay, let's do that. Great. You want me to do that? Let's do that.
You just keep leaning in. I love that. You're
Yeah.
just like, I'm not going to stop.
I'm like,
I'm not
what,
stopping.
right. We are all going to die. That is
Mm,
the only universal truth there is other than gravity. Like, we are not getting out alive. And if you are someone who is listening right now and you know you have that knowing like in your belly the way that I did, everything else your mind offers you is untrustworthy. Everything your mind does is in an effort to keep you the same because it's the only way it perceives you can be safe. And you might even know this, but you don't know it because if you knew it, you would think about what you're thinking about and you wouldn't attach to your thoughts. You wouldn't let your mind lead. You
mm.
can't have both. I'll pause here because it's big. What are you feeling right now?
I tell you, I know all this, but sometimes you need someone to say it in a different way, and it just lands in that little nook that you forgot about. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, of course. Well, it's one of those things we don't we we under we tr- it's like we underestimate how real your ability to choose is,
Mm,
how deep and wide that goes, because it's so much easier and more comfortable to stay the same. And we live in a world where you can look to your left or your right or up or down, and there's someone who's willing to commiserate with you about how they're not there yet and how hard it is. And then everyone just stays in this really disgustingly low vibration, false high vibration, aspirational state of hoping and wishing and wanting and knowing that their thoughts create their reality and posting about it, but not actually no longer attaching to their thinking and becoming someone who is feeding their mind the thoughts they need to think to become who they need to become to do what they want to do in this world. It's available to us. It's like not turning the internet on. Why?
yeah.
It's there. It's available. It's real. It's like, come on. That's why we do the work. That's what makes me so jazzed. That's part of inside NIE when we break down and we show you thought and the electrical impulse and what it actually is and how your synapses connect and what's going on and your neurotags that are connected to your ex-wife or connected to your, mother and how it thrust your body back into this old experience. You have to direct the show or it's going to take it will literally steal your life because you will just survive and then you will die.
I lo There's a couple of things. One, I think, I talk about pity parties. I think I saw a piece of content that you did about that kind of thing, like, oh, you're in victim. And I was like, yeah, pity parties are just so, can be so. I used to do them a lot. I used to be the queen of pity parties and don't do them anymore. I sort of catch myself now. But this other thing of what you were saying, do you know, I'm so thrown because you've just literally your brain, your thoughts have just hit me right where I needed to be hit today. So I just want to thank you for that. I love, do you know, sometimes I interview these people, the most amazing people. I'm so privileged to have this podcast. I'm really grateful for myself for facing the fear and launching it whenever I did, years ago. But how I meet some people at the exact moment of my life when I was supposed to meet them, and I needed this.
Mm,
You just, oh, you're amazing. Right.
thank you.
So I feel a bit emotional. Okay. So, what I want to talk, because there are some people that are listening to this that may not be as into or know as much about this kind of thing as maybe we do. But can you describe about third dimensional consciousness, fifth dimensional? Is there a fourth? You hear about the
There is, and I love this because it's one of the compliments that we get from our students the most, like when they come in, because we break this down, right? When you come into Mind Magic, which is the methodology, there's a whole module, and I break this down. So let me give you the cliff notes. Think of dimensions of consciousness as levels, and they're in actual fact, there's all the way from the first dimension. Now there are some coming in and sharing that there's a 22nd dimension. So this is, anyone worth listening will tell you that if we ever truly understood consciousness, the world would implode. It is that complex. It is that challenging to study. It is a really vast subject matter. So when it comes to what we need to do for here, right now, in this space and time, in our own becoming process and our healing process, the important dimensions to focus on, because the third dimension is where tangibility and not materialism as in like I need to buy things, but material things exist, right? The three, that's where we need to start from, because it needs to be third dimensional to be in your human experience. We don't live in a two-dimensional world, right? So third dimensional consciousness, fourth and fifth is where we focus. 3D consciousness is the level of consciousness. I want you to consider it as your survival state. Okay. And our world or society around us at large operates in third dimensional consciousness. It functions off lack, fear, and separation. Open your eyes. That's the truth, right? For those of us that live in these beautiful, conscious kind of like little hubs around the world, around the internet, right? Sometimes we forget that, because it's wonderful to surround yourself with consciousness. We come to conferences and retreats and we're like, oh, we're sitting up all night talking about all these juicy, delicious things, and we're open-hearted and we're vulnerable. Like, I was at lunch with a colleague, very good friend of mine, who has very similar work in the world, and we're sitting at a sushi place and I'm holding her hand across the table and she's sharing like such a vulnerable thing, and we're just crying and talking in a restaurant. That's not the norm. Right?
No.
It needs to be, but it's not. So third dimensional consciousness, that's the state or quality of your awareness. That's what consciousness is as we teach it. Then that's your survival state. Then as you start to grow and heal and work on yourself, even moments in this conversation, if all of a sudden you go, wait a second, I'm now aware that there's a third dimension of consciousness. Now I'm coming up into the fourth dimension, which we call the bridge. It's when we're healing, it's when we're playing, it's when you're like, ooh, did my inner environment do that? Like, you create something and you manifest and you're like, shit, was that really me? Should I do that again, right? It's this whole beautiful journey. And it's essentially, like, I like to say, when you awaken to the 4D, it's like you look down at the 3D and you're like, oh, there's a program. You're aware there's a program. You're aware there's conditioning where you weren't aware before. You went from being unconscious to conscious of the fact, oh my God, I have a whole belief structure that I didn't choose and it's really my life. That's fascinating. So then we're in the 4D, which is the bridge. And then 5D is your creation state. 5D consciousness is not a place. It's a state of being. It's an energetics where you are in your creation state. There are no problems. There is no judgment. All that shit lives in the 3D, right? 5D is love and trust and wholeness and oneness and quantum leaps, whereas linear time exists in the 3D, things of that nature. So that's the quick overview of 3, 4, and 5.
I am just sharing now about when you said about the aspirational, the joy of being aspirational. You're like, oh, I'm wishing and hoping, and this is going to be amazing. And the dopamine you get from doing that. Isn't it amazing? You just get addicted to the dopamine of doing a to-do list. Look at everything that I'm going to achieve. Look at my plan. Look at my vision board. It's so fantastic. And
Yes.
actually, I think what hit me, and I feel like I just needed you to describe those conscious levels so I could sort of process the fact that it hit me that the I'm I love that planning and I can create, but and not but and I slip back. So I am actually not as far ahead with that process as I thought I was, because it's so exciting to do the aspirational things. But when doubt and imposter syndrome and fear, it's all back there. If that's pulling me still, I can't be in that create state, can I?
Correct. And what's so important about this, a couple things. You have a beautifully functioning biology. Okay? When you come and hang out as a student in the school, we do everything through high consciousness, your growth journey through your wholeness. There is nothing wrong with you. You have a biological system that is fighting against your next level every chance it can. It needs you to go, oh, I'll stay over here in fear. It needs you to continue to feed your emotional addictions of insecurity and worthlessness and pressurization and overwhelm and all of these other things, right? So when you really realize, like, okay, cool, self-doubt, sorry about that, self-doubt is not what we think it is, meaning just like imposter syndrome is not real.
Mm-hmm.
Self-doubt and thoughts of fraudulence, that's what I like to, instead of imposter syndrome, thoughts of fraudulence, are populated by your fear response in an effort to get you to attach to them and do nothing.
Yeah.
That's it, right? So this is what it feels like to be held highly conscious. Okay, great. So I'm going to see this for, like, let's be curious. Let's look at it from a scientific lens and go, well, that's exactly what it is, right? So anything unknown, unfamiliar, which is literally every single thing
Yep.
inside of any entrepreneurial journey, is going to bring about your fear response. And your responsibility as the spiritual, energetic being having the human experience is to understand how to run the show, is to understand how to give your nervous system the safety it needs, because you can only succeed at the level of how safe your body feels. And then go, oh, that's interesting. Like, when I took me 2 years to leave that corporate job, which is one of the things I reflected on when I started becoming who I am now, my fear talk track, we teach this in NIE too. My fear talk track was, what if you suck? What if what if everybody laughs at you? What if everybody judges you? What if you can't get another good job again? Right? Who do you think you are? You've never been smart enough. You didn't go to college. These are all the things my mind is offering me. And because I didn't know then what I know now, which is why my commitment is so fierce to help, to be helpful, that was just my fear talk track doing its job. I was going to go back to school as someone who, in my evidence of my mind, I sucked at school, I skipped second period, I didn't go to college, I never believed I was smart enough, and now here I am, I'm gonna go back to school as adult learner. Oh, and then I'm gonna leave my cushy high level 6-figure VP job and go, like, what? My mind was not gonna be like, get it, queen, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing,
Oh,
we keep
wow.
waiting. We keep waiting. You can't wait. You need to be the leader of the ship. And you need
Mm.
to let the version of you that's already enjoying and living in the gorgeousness of your capacity, you need to learn how to let her lead now. And that's what we do.
So with, oh, good. I'm getting thrown here, Tracy. I knew this was going to be brilliant. I just knew it because I think, is it, you're friends with Jill, aren't you? Jill Stanton.
Yes,
And I mean, she's epic, isn't
she
she?
is.
I
She is.
saw her in she did a masterclass for something I was just watching of Amy Porterfield. And I was watching her thinking, I need this woman. I need to speak to this woman. And I just sent her a voice note. Very similar to what I did with you, actually. Jill, you've literally just changed my whole evening. Please come on my podcast. You're amazing. Anyway, she did, and it was wonderful. Then she said, oh, my friend Tracy Litt. And I was watching your content. I was like, okay, I need to, I need to speak to this woman now. And you
Thank you.
are. And it's just, again, it's so brilliant to talk about people, to talk to people. And I think that, and this is no disrespect to anybody in my circle, but I am the person like you now. I speak to people and I take them with me. I lead the way. Are you into human design? Do you know,
I know just like what I am, but that's about it.
are you a projector?
No, I'm a manifesting generator.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. I thought you might be a projector. I'm just getting into the human design thing. But anyway, so I am a projector, but I'm there and I'm guiding and I'm leading the way and I lean on my future self and all of that. But it's about up leveling even where I am. And it's about being in the room, virtual room, even like this, with people that have, you know, a few steps ahead, just like you, where, and what I love that I am now in, I can see now what the next bit is for me is really my intuition is strong and I can hear it. And I'm sure people are listening, they can feel their intuition. I trust it.
Mm.
But on that, you know, that pivotal point of leaning in and going, okay, I'm going to do the thing that I want to do. And then I just have a little glimmer of, or, you know, a lack of self-trust and just it's just always just a tiny glimmer. And that is sometimes enough for the fear to go, ah, got you. Come back a little bit then. And that's what I have to, I've faced so many fears. I go
Mm.
forward so confident. I know my intuition. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Very much like you. I, this is what I have to do. I have to lead the women in my membership. I have to teach what I know. This is what I'm here to do. But it's just that little tweak. But that tweak, doesn't it change everything? I'm just gonna
Mm.
like tweak and then
Well, the tweak and you being able to, in that moment, come back into your body,
mm,
right? Like really chill it out. However, that where everybody has different methods for that, right? Grounding, tapping, screaming, breathing, whatever it is. Just, you know, my favorite thing to do, and I do all the things and we teach all the things about somatics, but my favorite thing to do is put on an eye mask and my headphones and make sure I have space around me and just like dance and move.
mm,
And there's something about shutting off that, you know, obviously when we shut off our eyesight because so much of our stimulus comes in through that. I have a massively fabulous connection to my body when I do that. So anyway, when you recognize that you're not leaning in, right? That lack of trust is bringing you back into the 3D. And when you regulate, then it helps you to come back online, right? Consciously, your prefrontal cortex works again. Now you're not like in a slightly dysregulated situation. And then I invite you to say, well, what would she do?
should do it.
And she would do it, right? And then
Mm,
that's the kicker, you got to do it. And then I want you to remember what I'm saying to you. You're going to die.
yeah.
You're not getting out alive. Like when we really realize here's the thing. Nothing means anything and no one's getting out alive. So what are you waiting for exactly? No, nothing. The only thing you actually
Nothing.
need to do is learn how to operate this thing, which is what we do,
Yeah.
right?
Isn't the lack, well, I always find that the discomfort that people feel in these moments,
Mm.
I feel that it is the grief of letting part of your identity go that's been holding you back.
It's
Because,
totally part of that. Totally.
and
Totally.
I think that's the hardest bit.
That and the need to stop disassociating and feeling in general,
Mm,
right? Because yes, it is partly the fact that we do have to lovingly kill off parts of our old identity, right? Because like, I mean, listen, I'm not the one who ever said what got you here won't get you there. This is not, you
yeah.
know, heart surgery. This is it's pretty simple when you think about it. The part of it that makes it not easy is you haven't learned about yourself yet. And when your old system is so aroused by your emotional addictions and who you've been, making that new choice is where it starts to feel hard.
Mm,
And the like you were saying, the grief and every other feeling that every single one of us suppressed, repressed, oppressed, or depressed throughout our lifetime because we were never taught the truth about emotion. We were never taught how to feel. And that's the actual gateway to everything we want. Like that's the answer. That is the singular answer. Imagine a world of people who felt unabashedly.
isn't that, it's just, it seems, sounds so easy, but it is, when you said that, you know, no one's taught us how to feel. How, when you feel upset, it's, oh, don't cry. Got to keep it together. But
Right.
what if you just go,
Uh-huh.
or you've had a difficult day at work, or a difficult day, full stop, or you've had a challenging morning with your child, and you think, oh my goodness, I just really need. What if you just felt the feelings? Feelings are
Correct.
supposed to be felt. Don't numb them. how much quicker we go through things when you learn that, though. I'm so grateful for
It is,
yeah, yeah,
it is
yeah.
it is lightning speed, and it is literally how I've expanded my capacity.
Mm,
And we teach it, right? So if you're not clean, if you're emotionally congested, then it means you're not clean and clear in your body, which means your intuition is not accurate. Your whatever high vibe you think you're rocking, you are not. You are not. This is why it's really important to get back in the body. But most of us disassociated at some point, and then we live in a society that likes to keep us disassociated because it's part of the control matrix. It just is. And this isn't like conspiracy theory. This is like open your eyes.
yeah.
This is what it is, right? So when you realize that, okay, so then how truly scary it feels to become a woman who feels her feelings is a very real thing, especially if you were brought up in abuse or volatility in a household, or your parents fought a lot. When I lead a scream release, we need to do a lot of body priming first, because it can trigger. But then when you realize, okay, wait a minute, my divine moral responsibility is to come inside and work on myself. So when I can see that trigger as not I got to get out of here, which is your nervous system attempting to keep you safe and the same, and you see that trigger as like, ooh, I'm going to sit with this. Oh, look at what my body's doing, right? And you really that's the stuff. That's the stuff. And especially for entrepreneurs, emotional congestion kills your dreams. You will never reach your actual holistic success. What, you want to hustle and burn out and adrenal fatigue your way there? You can absolutely make 8 figures doing that. I'm not saying you can't. You totally can. But do
Mm.
you want to feel like shit along the way? Or isn't the whole point to prioritize how many hours of the day we spend feeling present and open and allowing and receptive and loving? You can't get to that if you're sitting on decades of resentment and anger and annoyance and frustration and rage. Yeah.
And this is just the facts that I know I benefit from a really good cry. And then I feel so good. And somebody said to me, I did a piece of content on it. I just said, it's okay for you to just go and have a really good cry. And then you get back on the train. You just get back on it, my love, because you'll have much more clarity. And someone said, no, I've never seen anybody say that before. So, well, it's literally the best thing that anytime my clients come to me that I really just feel a bit, I'm like, you probably need to just go and have a really good cry. Come back to me. But it's so simple, but we see it as a weakness. And in the entrepreneurial world, we have to be so strong and visible and, go for it. But that's not led on feelings, is it? Even though the most successful entrepreneurs are leading with feelings because it's their intuition.
Yes. And they might be leading with intuition and still have an opportunity for emotional expression, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the opposite of repression, suppression, depression, oppression is expression. What is everything? I could tie everybody's message that works in this field back to one singular thing. Fullest expression of self. What is everything? Be you, do you, shine your light, beam, show. Yeah, uh-huh. But you're not doing any of that if you're not fully self-expressed. And that doesn't mean get louder. It means expression. That means emotional expression, conviction expression, truth expression, just expression. And nobody was ever taught how to feel safe doing that, especially not women.
Yeah. 100%. Wow. I before I would love you just to share a story, but I think you've already done this, but just we're going to come back to that in a minute. But I've never, or I must have heard it, but emotional addictions. This is sort of being addicted to the pity party, the victim mode, isn't it?
Well, not necessarily. It's more about, so with the definition of addiction that we use in the school is by a beautiful doctor named Dr. Judson Brewer. And he said, his definition of addiction is continued use despite adverse consequences.
Hmm.
And when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, There
Yeah.
it is. Because what happens is as we grow up, we start to have a homeostasis with certain emotions, right? So let's say like chaos and unworthiness and pressure, like for the perfectionists out there, right? So it's like, let's say those are the, and we identify your emotional addictions when you come into school. So let's say we identify those. Then what you start to recognize is your identity has been built to continue to affirm those emotional addictions. Your behaviors, your narratives, your belief structure, how you react to things consistently is giving that, let's say, chaos, it's a little emotional hit. It's just like, oh, okay, I know it can be easy, but I'm just going to unconsciously make this really hard because then I'll be feeding the chaos. But you don't know that because it's unconscious till we make it conscious. And then what we get to do is we get to go, okay, so if we're done with these emotional addictions, which means we're going to heal and untether our way away from them, and then teach our body the elevated emotions of who we're becoming, teaching our body the elevated emotions of her, right? Then we start to recondition the body emotionally, and then you can start to recognize when it's like, oh, wait a second, oh, I'm not in mind magic, it's your guiding light feelings. Oh, I'm not feeling ease. Oh, what am I feeling? Pressure. Wow. Okay. That thing, that behavior. Oh, and you're doing it through this lens of consciousness and data, and you're like, oh my God, that's so interesting. And whoa, I see now how I picked a fight with my husband. Everything was fine. Oh my God, why? Because I don't feel safe and all the goodness all at once. I need the chaos. Oh my God, moving again. Why are we moving? Because I. That's the thing. You are literally an addict, and we need to become aware of all the ways that we continue to feed the old identity and the old emotional addictions.
I think there was a piece of content that I watched when you were doing an in-person event. And I think it was when your critical voice, when you're being critical of yourself, I think it's what it was that says your response is, that's interesting. And just answering it back and say, oh, that's interesting you're saying that to me.
Mm-hmm.
How I feel like that's so powerful because you're disassociating. That's not who you want to be or who you are in the present. That's the fear, isn't it? That's the third dimensional consciousness trying to pull you back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the ability to, this is another part of NIE, we teach non-judgmental self-observation and how to master this practice of critical. It's the most important
Mm,
thing of growth. If you're not currently practicing your non-judgmental awareness and observation, stop everything else you're trying to do to help yourself and focus on that.
mm.
And it's when that NJO, as we teach it, can then say to you, like, psst, hey, you notice that low level thinking, or you notice that, right? And then you can see it for what it is, which is the old conditioning and your beautiful system trying to keep you the same because that's what it knows. Consciously, you're like, I want ease, I want radiance. But if your cells have been raised involuntarily, unknowingly by you, continue to affirm and feed and water worry and anxiety, and you go off and you're playing in ease and radiance, your system will let you do that for about a week.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you'll be, but I was feeling so good. And now, da da da. It's like, yep, because your cells are not having it. They're coming together and they're having a meeting and they're like, what the hell is she doing up there? I have not been fed anxiety in a week. I feel like we're going to die. You need to get her back. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And that is the science of change in the becoming process, which everyone in the world needs to learn this. It is more critical than arithmetic and English and all the other things that I understand our society deems important. This is where it's at.
I agree. Amazing. Um, have you got any others? I feel like this is just going sidetracked now. But it's important that I share, these moments of where you maybe when you were starting out and you knew you had to lean in and the thoughts that you were expressing. I think you have already covered this, Tracy. So, but those moments where you thought, it's probably easier if I give up now, but you
So
didn't.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, really at every turn. I mean, I'm having it right. I'm having another thing right now. It's not that you're because when you understand the way that thoughts populate from your body to your mind, and the way you understand when fear comes on the scene, and when you become a mind magician in the core curriculum, and you no longer believe you're thinking, it doesn't stop. We're about to announce a massive live event for 2025. And my mind still offers things like, oh, maybe you should procrastinate on that, or are you sure you want to do that? Or like, it's still there, but I'm a mind magician, so I don't believe a thought I think. My thoughts are options, not facts. So are yours. Your thoughts are options, not facts. So um, at every single moment, you're choosing that and you're leaning into it. It's all the time. It's all the time.
Yeah. And that's, I think it doesn't go away, does it? It's just
Oh.
you develop the skills to have the power, more power than that the fear has.
More, yeah, because you're
Mhm.
more powerful than anything. And it does shift. Your default changes. Like I can remember when I first started doing this work that now we deliver to the world on myself, I used to think, how am I going to do this? I used to get stuck on the external how a lot, right? I used to care a lot about what people thought. But then I was working on the evolution of me that didn't care at all what people thought and knew that the how was none of my business. And I practiced it and I practiced it and I reprogrammed my belief structure and I shifted my identity to the woman who knows the how is none of her business, right? And all that. And now those thoughts don't populate at all because I've created new neural pathways, right? The thoughts that you no longer think, which means you don't like water them, think of like growing a plant, right? If you don't water the old thoughts, they eventually root away. If you're putting your focus and attention and you're thinking the new thoughts instead, right? So you absolutely have sustainable long-term permanent change and evolution, and your new default way of thinking is the desirable way of thinking. And your mind and body are never going to just let you do shit without trying to stop you. That's the part that never ends. Your fear is gorgeous. We teach you how to love it. It's like the employee of the month every month. It just wants you to be safe and amazing. So it shows up. And then it's your responsibility to be like, nope, I see you. I love you. And those thoughts are thoughts of limitation. And I am going to be steadfast, connected, and committed to my dream, my capacity, my vessel, my vision. And I'm going to lean into risk. And I'm not going to get out alive. So I'm definitely going to keep going. I think that every day. I think it every day. I lost my mom when I was 24. She was my best friend. She was a gift to this world. Like anyone who's ever lost anyone, and if you haven't, you will. Like the only way to honor the truth and the beauty of death is to leverage it when you're alive. Make something of yourself. Do something with your life. Be more, and it doesn't mean like need to have a big business. I'm saying be more loving, be more kind, be more available, be more present because you're going to get to your last day on earth. Then what?
Yeah.
I want to die going, yes, queen.
Yeah.
You failed, you succeeded, you showed up, you did all the things you could possibly squeeze out of this experience.
Amazing. I got emotional then. I think you are a queen. Your
Thank you.
power has come through the Zoom into this. This is gonna A lot of people are gonna benefit from this episode, and I'm so grateful for you right now.
Thank
Um,
you.
as I ask everybody, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago that you know now, but you wish you knew then?
Oh, this hits. So 10 years ago, I would have been 37, and 38 is when it just came to me, is when I started feeling the itch, the soul itch of calling me up into something bigger. I would have said, it is more amazing than you can possibly imagine. Run, go now, bet on yourself. That's what I would have said.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. So grateful. This has been epic.
Thank you.
and I need to listen to it again as soon as I just watch the recording back. Thank you. Where can people find you, Tracy?
Thank you. Come to the schoolofbecoming.com and you can come do the free assessment, hang in the library, all the info's there. And at the Lit Factor on Instagram, we hang out a lot and it's LITT. And I would love to give your beautiful people courage to fail. So if that's cool, we can link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful, free, three-part audio series. You mentioned we talked a lot about trust, kind of directly and indirectly.
Mm,
One of the most important things that we need to do in order to actually embody, live in trust is to shift our relationship with failure.
mm.
So, Courage to Fail is an audio series that helps you do just that. And we'll make sure to give you the link.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank
That's
you for
wonderful.
having me. I loved it. I loved it. Ah!
Thank you.